Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Sister Act event in which the Stheno is added to the game. So this week we have a few things going on, maybe a patch today, as well as an interesting new troop and something else happening that actually happened in the previous patch, version 6.3, that two things that we finally got access to this week, so that's going to be cool. Anyways, let's start with the actual troop itself. It is comes in with green, yellow arcane. This can be infinitely farmed from the Warrens faction. Is actually the only faction in the game that drops arcanes, which makes it actually the easiest one to get in the entire game. So not much of a need to mass buy this in order to get it, though if you're still short you can. As far as the troop itself, it is interesting, most similar to Night Spider in what it does. However, it does it quite a bit differently. It creates a mix of 3 green and red gems for each green ally and enemy. Unlike Rogue Spider, it has no base amount, because Rogue Spider has a base amount of 3 regardless, and then technically 6 because of the ratio off itself. However, one thing that this also does weirdly is that it doesn't boost both simultaneously. So, for example, if you're going to, whenever you're getting boost ratio, you're only getting 3 additional gems, not 3 of both of the 2 gems. One of the things is that since it's a mix, it can do a weird ratio of the 2. So it could end up doing like a 10 green, 8 red kind of thing, or where both the 2 numbers aren't exactly the same amount of spawn. This can be favorable or unfavorable. Of course, the most unfavorable part about this would be if it did more red than it did green, which would be very bad, as you're generally going to be building a pure green team in order to use the full boost ratio. This does boost ratio off of all allies and all enemies, so if every single ally and every single enemy is a green, you can get some pretty absurd value from this. However, most realistically, you're probably getting about a 5 ratio from this, 4 on your own team and 1 on the enemy team. While it is a decent amount of gem spawn, it is very situational on if you're going to be bringing it out or not. It's definitely not an automatic slot on green teams, and compared to something just like running Truffle Beatrix or something similar, she probably doesn't have much of a place on many green teams compared to what already exists. She does have the benefit of having mana drain, which can be okay. But beyond that, it is a pretty average mana accumulator that will ever situationally be used on green teams. It's definitely not going to be used anywhere near as much as Rogue Spider. However, it does have a little bit more of a team diversity in that pure green is quite a bit wider as far as what you can use compared to pure Rogue, at least in the current state of the game, due to the lack of Rogue options, particularly Rogue Mythics. I think it's like 2 Rogue Mythics in the entire game, maybe 1. I think it's 2. Definitely not that many. But anyways, overall, not that bad of a glory troop, but definitely pretty average, like average, slightly above average. As far as the event key drop table is concerned, we have an okay drop table, particularly if you need one specific option, which is Queen Titania. Queen Titania, particularly for Yagway Queen Titania, or simply just running double Queen Titania, a really great option. It's basically like the Phoenicia of Legends, very similar to that. Ends up getting a lot of value for its magic, and arguably could be one of the best legends to first upgrade. Yagway and Queen Titania are both kind of in that category, and they're used for pretty much the same team. As far as what she does, she deals damage to all enemies, boosted by red enemies and allies. And if there are 13 or more red gems on the board, it ends up gaining extra turn. It gets a really massive boost ratio, which if you're earlier on in the game, this is pretty much a must-have. It's not as good as like Tesla as far as scaling, but for just like general battles, when you're fighting something at similar stats than you, you're going to be doing a lot more damage having a Queen Titania. One other thing that is pretty nice is the auto extra turn, so you're generally feeding it a bunch of red. Any kind of team you build it around is generally really red heavy. Normally with Child of Summer ends up getting synergy, so you get the red storm, so you get the additional red convert off of Empower. One thing that's really nice is gains insanely good magic value. Not only can it get 6 additional magic from being fully metalled, but it also already has the full AoE to be able to hit all enemies off an extra turn. But on top of that, it also ends up doing Fairy Fire, which is a 50 additional damage to spell damage. So you're going to be able to get that on top of all your other damage, basically meaning that she'll get about 1.5 damage per additional magic, for a total of 6 additional damage per additional magic in theory, due to the fact that she hits all enemies. So she's pretty much like the second highest, tied at the second highest for amount of extra damage that you get relative to magic accumulated, with something of course like Phoenicia being the highest in that regard. So yeah, really great option, and being able to do this as a legendary, not even a mythic, is insanely good. If you are to event key for anything, you want to go for that. Anyways, there are 6 things not in the drop table. Those 4 of course are the 4 from Sunken Fleet, the faction. But there are 2 others. The other 2 are the Doom of Nature, which is only available during Green Dooms, and the other one is the Star, which is a tarot card that is only available specifically in Vault Keys. Everything else that you see here is indeed in Drop Table, with the most relevant things to get being Queen Titania, Child of Summer, which is Empower into Convert Red, really good anti-brown Guild War kind of troop. Also gives a Firestorm, which is pretty nice. And there was one other. Oh yeah, duh. Leprechaun. Of course, the good old Leprechaun. If you're just starting out the game, perfect time to go get some Leprechauns. Just go and open some event keys, and very few of them would be needed to go and get one of the best mana generators in the entire game. Not really much of a need to fully max him. However, having a copy of him, exceedingly important. That is for sure. As far as the mythics and super high rarity stuff here, pretty underwhelming. You're mostly just getting it for completion's sake and for getting stars, as the kingdom now can reach 22 stars, as we can see there. Anyways, on to the next thing. We, of course, have a standard world event, as per usual. It's just rarity order, so really straightforward. Eventually, you're just going to have all Q-Sifs, and then you just take the room that isn't Q-Sif. Very straightforward world event. You basically just keep spamming the same room over and over again once you get to the point where you only have Q-Sifs left. And it's just simply rarity order, and then you just keep clicking the same spot. Generally, you want to do it to the one closest down to the bottom, so it's less of a distance to go click onto the button. Saves a little bit of time. Obviously, it doesn't have to be that way. But yeah, just rarity order, and just don't take Q-Sif, and you'll be taking the correct room. Anyway, aside from that, let's go over to all the things that we have going on this week, and there are a few. Of course, today we have the faction assault for the red-blue Sunken fleet. Also has Mirage Queen and a few other pretty good options, like a 4x stun, which could be pretty early, easy, or pretty good to pick up as a early game stunner. However, one of the more interesting things is this Wednesday, we have ourselves a egg. This egg is actually one of the 6 that ended up coming in through the patch. So in the 6.3 patch, we ended up getting 6 new weapons, as well as 6 new pets underneath here. These 6 pets actually are in the drop table right now. Like, you could have gotten them at literally any point in this patch. If you just randomly get a pet gnome and that pet gnome happens to hit one of these. Unfortunately, you have to be on during that time. Like, for example, my guild actually got this cloud the other day. However, I wasn't on because it was like in the middle of the night at like 3-4 a.m. or something. So I wasn't on to go claim it. However, these are actually in the drop table right now. So if you have an active guild that's like getting pet battles every single hour, or if you like check during Vault events, where your guild will likely be able to get pet active every single hour pretty easily, these are in drop table right now. However, none of them have had a particular event. They're sold for like some amount of money, I think like $5 or $10 for like newer players. However, veteran players, you basically just have to get it through, you know, just a standard drop table. However, none of them have had an event until tomorrow, where we'll be getting the Shimmer Scale eggs. All 6 of these pets are pretty useless, as they basically just buff a single troop. Most of these single troops being pretty bad, with a few exceptions, like this one's Shadow Hunter. There's one other one. Well, this one's Bonnie Rose, which they're not horrible things, so getting a little bit of bonus, I guess, is okay. But something like Shimmer Scale, pretty much just completely useless. However, yeah. So hopefully they'll start rolling down the events for these, so anyone who's not getting lucky with the guild will be able to go and just get them through the Wednesday event. However, if you don't pick it up through the Wednesday event, you will just be able to find them randomly as well. You just need to keep hoping you get lucky. But hopefully they'll run all the events for these so you can get them a bit more easily. This Thursday we have the class event for the Hierophant. One unique thing about the Hierophant is that it has triple damage burning into cleanse. It is the only hero class that has a triple damage burning into auto cleanse off of its trait, so it has that going for it. And just Friday, we have the other new feature in 6.3, and that is a deep delve. You remember that thing that existed that is completely pointless? Well, we're getting another one of them. We currently only have it for All Seeing Eye as far as the deep delve is concerned, where you can end up using the little thing in order to use 2 of your sigils. This is, from a loot perspective, pretty much pointless, at least in the current balance of the game. That could change in the future. Who knows? Maybe even next patch if we're getting that today. Who knows? However, it is pretty pointless, but we're getting another one. Hopefully it'll get buffed in the patch or soonish. And the other one that it's going to be going for is Crypt. Where on earth is Crypt? Where is Crypt? There it is. Crypt Keepers will be the next one that'll be getting it. If it will be a good layout or not, who knows? We'll find out then, because every single one does get a different room, so who knows? It could be like a billion treasure rooms in there and actually be viable to take. It could be the new City of Thieves. Eventually it's going to happen. Something has to be the new City of Thieves. It might not be the City of Thieves itself, but something is eventually going to get such an overpowered delve that it'll become the only place where you'll ever deep delve. That does not exist yet, however, it might eventually. And who knows, maybe Crypto will be it. But anyways, we're getting another one of those this Friday, and a standard, just, you know, faction event for it if you haven't already gotten a max or just want to get the various loot from it. And that's everything that we have going on this week, and potentially the patch today. Okay, so as far as Soulforge, we have a few things that are kind of okay. For the most part, I would say it's a skip as far as this. However, there is a weapon that's really relevant. We'll get to that in a moment. However, as far as the actual troops, mostly skippable things, mostly just utility troops that are very rarely used, like Flaming Ani. It's a good extra turn option, but really weak against freeze. Also has a lot of burn, 4-temp burn onto the enemy, and for whatever reason, if you actually want to burn your own team, it can be actually pretty good for doing that as well. We also have things like if you're earlier on in the game and you have double Tesla, but you're still missing the Holy Saint Astra. Holy Saint Astra for that 50% mana star for humans is here. While I normally don't advise crafting legendaries, if you already have the Teslas but don't have Holy Saint Astra, it could be worth considering, as it's among one of the best teams you can run through all of the game once you have it, so it's a great option to have. And aside from that, Voice of Orpheus, we just had a Guild War, however, it is a good alternative Guild War option. We just did a flawless Guild War with no losses at 9,500 rate. Without actually needing to use Voice of Orpheus, however, you can exchange it out. I didn't end up using Obsidious and a few other things too, but they can be good utility options. Voice of Orpheus, Obsidious, you know, those kind of like utility troops that do something really particular that can counter out a particular team. This one's most relevant thing is that it has immune to basically almost everything. Has Impervious while having Cleanse on not only trait but also ability, so generally it is among one of the most consistent cleansers in the game. The only real big issue with it is its ability is a really high mana cost for relatively small value. Compared to other options with the game, especially since you pass your turn. So it's very situational if you just really desperately need a consistent cleanse option, and it can end up doing that. But normally, slightly less consistent cleanse options are just better pacing than using Voice of Orpheus, but still a pretty good option nonetheless. Anyways, aside from that, most relevant thing to mention as far as weapons are concerned, and pretty much the only one, is the Summer Scale or Shimmer Scale Wing. So as I mentioned, we got 6 new weapons in the previous patch. All of these up until today, or I should say yesterday, were money locked behind a bundle that you could get as a newer player. Veteran players, I don't believe, or were even capable of getting this until today. So yeah, here's the first one of these. You'll be able to get them all for free at some point. The first one is now, and the other 5 will come in their corresponding event weeks. Could still be several months until we get them all. This is mostly just a completionist weapon. This weapon is, you know, very bad. You're pretty much almost never really going to be using it for the most part. Actually, never mind. This one's actually not too bad. Give a bunch of life to all allies of Shimmer. Oh no, you require Shimmer Scale to be on your team. I was reading the other part. It's like, wait, I read that part and then that part. It's like, oh, that's good. And then I read that part. It's like, oh, that's bad. Like, if the Shimmer Scale didn't have to be on your team, that would actually be a good heal option. However, yeah, Shimmer Scale's pretty bad. Though one of those might actually be good then, because the one with Shadow Hunter, you know, Shadow Hunter's not bad. So some of those, maybe the one with Bonnie Rose wouldn't be that bad either. But anyways, let me go craft this. Wanted to make sure we did it for the video thing. But yeah, definitely make sure to go and grab this if you're doing it for completion's sake. It's pretty much a weapon you're probably never really going to be touching. However, it is the first and only time it has been available. It will be available every single time a Bright Forest event comes around. However, you're going to have to wait quite a while before that comes back around. So if you need it for completion's sake, definitely make sure to do so. As far as weapons that are actually good, Celestial Flask. This is, I believe, the first or second time, probably second by now. Though this may actually be the first time that free-to-play players have been able to get this. Pretty sure this is the second time. However, Celestial Flask is that one paywalled weapon from almost a year ago at this point. Gosh, several months ago. And it's the most viable way in the entire game to actually place potions onto the board. It's pretty much the only realistic way to still do the potion effect if you're looking to do it. It creates 3 potions of either blue, green, red, yellow, or purple, basically every color but brown, and then gain automatic extra turn. The fact that this has an auto extra turn is the main thing that makes this viable, because you can simply put the potions onto the board and then pop them immediately with some other option, like a gem destroy and explode, or, you know, anything else you want to use, and you're good to go. Or you can even just do it with a mana accumulator. It'll be a little bit inconsistent unless you have something that can do any color, but you're generally just do it with a destroy, some kind of board clear, get a bunch of potion effects. They create a bunch of gems every single time. You basically get all of your mana back. If you get really lucky, it'll be blue or red, and then you can really get all your mana back. And yeah, it kind of goes pretty crazy. It's among one of the better weapons in the game. I would even say the lower end of top 10. It's a very, very strong weapon, and definitely highly advised for getting anything as far as like needed from Soulforge that's actually good. This is like the go-to thing to probably get this week. Aside from that, you have like your standard mana accumulating things, but yeah, definitely Celestial Flask. If you don't have it already, highly advise picking this up. Aside from that, there's Trickster Shot. While this is a lot more situational in the current state of the game, this is basically Mang but magic. So this is probably second highest priority. Personally feel like I almost never used it, however. It's relevant for some bounty hunter. Oh, never mind, you can't use it for bounty hunter. Well, you can if you're doing the triple method. Wait, what's the one thing it's relevant for some world events. when you're restricted out of some of the other options and you get forced to have to use a weapon like this. However, other than that, it generally doesn't get used too often. It's normally just more efficient to use Mang or something else that can scale, because it doesn't get as much of a value, only gets 3-to-1 instead of 1-to-1, which loses a lot of value, and you have to cast it every single time you get magic, whereas skulls, you know, every single skull you take, you can get like 5 skulls within seconds, whereas getting your full mana to recast this takes quite a bit longer amount of time. Though there are some really niche situations where you can end up bringing it out, so maybe worth considering. So those are like the 2 really high priority ones then. Anyways, aside from that, let's go over all the teams. As per usual, they will all be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste any of them. Let's start all the way from the top. So as far as the World Event is concerned, most of them are pretty cheap this week. I have it as World Event and World Event low. However, both of them are pretty much World Event low. This is just a double truffle. This is basically just truffle loop, just built in a different way, because we have to build it pure green with all the restrictions. It just uses green storm off of archer. You can end up using tank hero if you want and make it a little bit safer. However, this is a really hyper offensive one where basically it's leprechaun into green storm, just get a bunch of truffle value and then just kill them out with truffle. Here's the other variant where we do use hero a little bit more as a tank. However, we are using it with Corsair instead of like a Titan or something similar for Barrier on Brown. Main reason we're using it with Corsair is for the rogue synergy for Night Spider. Of course, Night Spider still just as good as ever, better than the troop that we had coming in today. Not by much, but by enough to be relevant. Still a little bit weird that you have to, or you know, you're still restricted to the pure rogue thing. And this one uses all rogues except for one, the truffle. However, we kind of just need the truffle there in order to use the extra turn value and just kind of keep looping with all the synergy there. And just kind of keep Night Spider to truffle. And then use the rest of your stuff. Any excess mana goes into another extra turn poke. And you kind of just have War and Peace here to take in all the brown. And to also tank if you want to go for a tank your hero class, or just to initially tank since hero has a lot of stats. Aside from that, we have red-blue restriction for the faction event today. Of course, you can use any hero weapon color, however, for the faction event. As far as first team we have here, it's basically a standard Phoenicia, with the only exception being we can't run Leprechaun due to red-blue restriction. So we're using an enchanted Harpy Mage instead, which is basically turn 2 Empower. So instead of turn 1 Empower, you have turn 2. So it's basically standard Phoenicia, but a turn 2 Empower Harpy Mage, since the other restriction is not usable. Here's a Hiking Iron Gazugoff team for the higher level range, Angry Mob to mana accumulate, Harpy Mage also to mana accumulate as the basically pseudo Empower option. Pure faction, we're going with a double water elemental using Mirage Queen as the frontline tank. Drowned Sailor does an empowered yellow to blue, which will feed pretty much everything. Mirage Queen can do a bunch of skull poke if you want. However, the main thing that you're going to be killing with is double water elemental. It does damage to all enemies. Also gets extra water from its double water link, meaning that we have a total +2 blue, +2 brown, and +1 red here. The most important thing being the +2 brown in order to feed mana directly into water elemental, as it is not blocked on brown, whereas the other 2 colors it is initially blocked off of. So do be mindful of that. But you definitely need that double brown in order to get its mana directly to it a little bit quicker. Next, we have the Hierophant class. This is, I believe, Fae, so you have to use specifically Fae from Bright Forest. This one uses Dawnbringer as an Archmage just to feed even more mana to Queen Titania, or just a double Leprechaun to hold down the line for a bunch of mana accumulation. Next, we have a... should I go use this? I guess we'll go try using this. He has Freeze, though. Let me go find a non-Freeze team. This also has Freeze. Can I find anything without Freeze? Can I find a real team without Freeze? Is there such a thing? That's kind of a real team. Let's just do it and hope we don't get it completely obliterated by early skulls, which will probably happen. But anyways, here's the Theo. I just kind of want to show its difference compared to the other thing. Pretty sure you guys are well aware of Rogue Spider by now, or I should say Night Spider. However, this thing does function a bit differently. So we're actually going to take a red here. Just kind of get things going. Don't kill it. Yeah, I need it. Good. It being webbed actually has no effect because it doesn't actually use its magic stat. Could you get full mana? That'd be great. So we can actually go and show this properly. He might kill us with skulls here, though luckily I think we got looping before he could even do anything, so that's good. Let's go take our mana as we need. Keep spamming Truffle as a Truffle team would generally do. Truffle might actually infinite loop the enemy before I can do a thing, so I'm going to do its ability just to kind of show how much we end up getting. As you can see, a little bit worse than Spider. But if the enemy had a bunch of greens, it could definitely be worthwhile. In this particular instance, we only had 1 and it was already dead by the time I casted. However, if the enemy has at least like 2 greens, I feel like you can get some pretty decent value out of this thing. It's just very situational because even though we're running a pure green team right now, we're not necessarily going to get a lot of value. As you can see, Truffle did like 95% of the work there. So compared to just like Truffle Beatrix, double Truffle, stuff like that, underneath like pure green category. It's not as viable. It's pretty inconsistent. There's not as many good things to feed red into that can like loop back into the cycle. So overall, it's a very situational troop. Like I'm pretty sure I'm almost never going to be using it compared to Night Spider that I probably use like almost every week, at least for something. Normally it's a little bit of PvP because it's a really fun option to use. But the other one's definitely a lot more situational. Unless the enemy team has a lot of green to booster ratio off of, you're probably not really going to be using it. It can maybe find its way into green Guild War Defend, but I'm pretty sure the AI is going to be too inconsistent with it. It's going to keep spamming it too much and then get like froze on it and then like fall apart, because it is really bad against freeze, which I was trying to find a non-freeze team. So is Truffle. However, Truffle Beatrix combo kind of fixes that, and a few other combos they can kind of run with it, where she kind of has a problem where yeah, you can't really get away from it because you have to go, you absolutely have to go pure green. But overall, it's not a bad troop. It's among one of the better glory troops we had in recent times. It's just not enough to be viable in many situations. It's just way too situational to bother bringing out. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As I mentioned, all the teams that we went over are in the description below as well if you want to go and copy paste any of them. Hopefully later today we'll be getting a patch. Not sure about that, but if it's still going to be keeping up with the roadmap, we are actually still supposed to get a patch this month. So tomorrow, or today, I mean, would be the last possible day that could possibly happen. So we'll see what happens. I'm actually slightly doubtful that it will, but who knows? Maybe it will. And hopefully it'll fix Deep Delves as we're getting a new one this Friday. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye, everyone. And thanks for watching.